Hi, this is Joel Johnson with Johnson Renegade. Before we talk today about how you can get emotionally and physically prepared for retirement, make sure you subscribe to our channels. Hit the bell icon so that you get notified anytime we upload new retirement planning content. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about getting prepared for retirement. So many times, whether you see me on TV or you see me at a workshop speaking, other folks are next to you, and some of those folks have come in and visited with us. And here's what a lot of people say. They say, hey Joel, I'm 2 or 3 years out from retirement. I know I've got to work on the financial piece. I know I've got to think about my estate planning and other items, but I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to get a framework of where to start. And here's what I would say, just dream. One of the best ways you can get ready for retirement is to take a blank piece of paper, take a journal, and pretend like money was no object. Pretend like you had all the money you needed, because it's important that you don't think about financial constraints when you dream, and just write out what you see your retirement to be. Write out in vivid detail. What do you see? Do you see travel? Do you see spending time with grandkids? Do you see starting a hobby? Something like that. But just start by dreaming. Start by writing things out. And then you can hone in on various details, on various options. Now let's start with some of those details and give you a framework. But before we do that, I want to remind you, just dream without any financial constraints, because it frees up your mind to think. Write down that dream retirement. Now, let's talk about some of the options that you have when it comes to retirement. Because you might not have a full retirement. You might have different types of retirement, maybe a partial retirement, maybe some other types of things you want to do. We have a lot of clients that do go right into full retirement. They go into full retirement, they leave a job, they get their pension, they get their retirement, they turn their 401k into income, and they are just retired. They're not interested in working at all, and that's it. That's it for them, that full retirement. Other people, they want to go into a partial retirement. They want to go into that partial retirement where they're maybe working part-time. Now, that doesn't mean they necessarily work for the company that they worked for 20 or 30 years, but it might mean they get a part-time job at somewhere like a Home Depot. I had a client that was an engineer, loved working around the house, loved tinkering, loved building things, went to work at Home Depot, not because he needed to, just because he wanted to. Again, it was a lifestyle decision, that partial retirement. And last but not least, you can have a partial retirement, but you can volunteer. You don't necessarily have to be working for a paycheck, but you can volunteer. And again, I have another couple that retired, and now what they're doing is they're volunteering at the local food bank, and they're also volunteering for a religious organization that they're very, very involved with. They've been involved with for many years, but now they can do that almost full time. It keeps you young volunteering. I would highly recommend it. So what you want to do is you want to explore, as you write that dream list out, explore what you think your retirement needs to be. Again, if you need a little extra money but you want to leave that job, maybe you want to think about a partial retirement. If you don't need money, if you don't need the income, now you have all the flexibility in the world. Now, let's move on to the next point, which is your lifestyle. Let's think about your lifestyle and what you want that lifestyle to be. Do you have hobbies? You know, a few years back when I started getting a little more free time because our business was growing and I just have a great team around me, I was taking a lot of time off during the summer. Sometimes I would take 3 weeks off. Sometimes I would take 6 weeks off. And my wife said, Joel, you can't be around the house reading books all day, watching Netflix. I like to watch documentaries and so on. You've got to go get a hobby. So I went out and got a hobby. Now, I think she thought I was going to go start playing golf or something. I actually started driving race cars. That's a whole other discussion. We won't talk about that. But I got myself a hobby. Now, when you're retired, you have even more time on your hands than that summer vacation that I'm talking about. And so you probably want to use a hobby to occupy your time. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a sport. It could be a number of different things. But that hobby, and it does kind of tie in a little bit to volunteer, it could do that. But what is that hobby that you want to either increase your time with, or what's that hobby that you want to start? And the amazing thing about retirement is you start with a clean slate. You've got a lot of time on your hands. You can start those hobbies. The other is creating a schedule. You know, it's important, for me at least, and for a lot of our clients, to have some type of a regimented schedule. It doesn't work personally in my life for me to have time off and I just kind of get up anytime I want and putter around the house in my slippers and so on, I still, when I take time off, get up at the same time I do every day. When I'm working, I go to the gym. So even if I'm not working, I'm going to the gym at the same time every day. I have certain things that I keep in my schedule. It just works for me. It might not work for you. You might not need to do that. But I find that a lot of clients, when they create that schedule, it helps them have a higher quality retirement. Now, what about your health? Very, very important. I've seen so many people retire and their health starts to go downhill. Part of that is for other emotional reasons. Maybe they were really tied to their work and their work fulfilled a certain purpose in their lives. Maybe it's just laziness, and laziness is kind of a word that we don't like. But it's real important that you maintain your health. And also, some people actually get healthier in retirement because they're able to set a better schedule for exercise and so on. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining your health. And what is that for you? It means different things for different people. I haven't seen a lot of 65 or 70-year-olds going out doing CrossFit, but I sure do see a lot of 65 and 70-year-olds at the gym that I go to. And then last but not least, and this is a big one, and those of you that have watched our YouTube channel before, you've gone on our website, you know that we have a special guide about where should you live in retirement. So many people here up in the Northeast, where I am right now, talk about moving somewhere else to retire. What location do they want to be retired in? And a lot of things go into that question. It's not just cost of living and taxes. A lot of that is, where are the kids? Where are the grandkids? Where are the people that I love? Where are the organizations that I care about? So you want to really explore, and maybe this even comes in a little bit earlier in the planning process, where do I think I want to spend my retirement? And that way you can explore, what's the health care like in that area? What's the true cost of living? What are the pros and the cons? People like to bash the Northeast because the cost of living is so high, and that's true. We have a lot of clients that are in the Boston or the Hartford or the Greenwich area where they feel like the cost of living is high, but when they look at the services, sometimes the services that we get are better than in the southern states also. So it's really a balance. It just really depends on your particular situation. Then, last but not least, what are your priorities? And again, this sort of ties into everything else we've been talking about. What are the real priorities that you have? Is it family? Is it religious activities? Is it getting involved in politics? Is it traveling? When my mom and dad retired, they retired at about age 65 or so. My father always still kind of worked part-time, like we talked about before, because he wanted to. But they did a ton of traveling. In fact, they actually spent more money after they retired than they were spending before. So it really helps, again, as you make that dream list that we started talking about in the beginning, that you think about what are your priorities. And it's not just necessarily family. It's not just necessarily being involved in religious activities, volunteer activities, or maybe even coaching or something like that. It's a whole lot of different things, and this is where it really takes time. Yes, we've talked about some specific things previously in this little video that I'm doing, but it's really important that you figure out your priorities. And I'll tell you what, we've seen people's priorities change. My mom and dad, they wanted to travel. My father, throughout his career, had traveled a lot, but he'd never done it all at once. So they just traveled all over the world. They kind of did this whirlwind 2 or 3 years traveling bug that they got out of them by traveling. Others, again, it's maybe volunteering. Maybe it's just spending lots of time with the grandkids. Hey, we just had our first grandchild a little while back. I think we want to spend actually more time with the grandkids than my son and my daughter-in-law want us to spend there. They might get a little tired of hearing mom say, hey, this is how we raised our kids. But anyway, that's beside the point. What are your priorities? So again, what we've been talking about here is we've been talking about planning for retirement. And just to summarize, you want to start with that dream list. You want to start dreaming and just writing about the retirement that you envision. Don't get to the details too quickly. If you get to those details too quickly, you're going to constrain your mind. You're going to get caught up in the how do I do this and how do I do that. Write the dream list. Let that be the guideline. Let that be the roadmap for your awesome retirement. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to hear more of all the resources that we have, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And also on our website, johnsonbrunetti.com, we've got all kinds of great resources that speak to what I've been talking about today, as well as other resources absolutely free to use. So again, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for spending some time with me today.